Ladies and gentlemen, we are undoubtedly living in the last days, and Babylon is a massive part of that. Hold on to the seat of your pants, because that's going to be the topic of discussion for today. All right, you guys, I have to tell you this really quickly right off the bat. I am with one of the great ones. Now, I have to tell you how it is that I got Andy Woods, Dr. Andy Woods, the pastor of Sugarland Bible Church in Texas. I have to tell you how I got him here. This is incredible. So it's Sunday that we're recording this. Mm-hmm. Andy calls me late Saturday night and he says, hey, bro, I'm in town for a short period of time and I want to come to your church. And this is what I thought in my mind. I'm like, oh, that's just great. Andy is going to sit in church watching me teach through Revelation 18. The subject matter expert on Babylon is in essence going to watch me do a Bible study on this. And so I knew it. The moment he told me he was going to be here, I said, I have to have him here to have this discussion because this is going to be fun. There are so many ideas on what Babylon is. There's so many people talking about it's the United States of America. It means this, it's spiritually this, and there's all kinds of assertions that are made. So man, I got you here. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna talk about all of this, bro. I think this is great stuff. Can you do us a favor? I know most people that watch me know who you are, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself as we start this off? And then I'm going to get into some questions.
Okay. Well, my name is Dr. Andy Woods, and I pastor a church, as you mentioned before, in Sugarland, Texas, Sugarland Bible Church. Sugarland, 2 words, by the way, is kind of southwest Houston.
Yep.
And there's a big sugar mill there. That's where we get the name Sugarland. Kind of a historic landmark. What else about me? I'm the president of a school, Chafer Theological Seminary. I actually came from Southern California. I grew up in Southern California, but I got to the promised land as fast as I could.
I can't blame you for that.
And we kind of, by then I met my wife, Ann. I have a daughter, Sarah. And we left California to go to Texas about 1999 to get theological education. Ended up at Dallas Seminary, have 2 degrees from there, a THM and a PhD. And yes, I did write my doctoral dissertation.
On Babylon.
And then from there, I got a job at a Bible college. I fell into a pastorate accidentally, if there is such a thing as accidental in Christianity, more providentially. And what happened over the course of time is the church really started to do well. And so I became the full-time pastor of Sugarland Bible Church. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, so I'm telling you, this is incredible. And we have a great resource, by the way, in Andy. I can tell you this right now. I just love some of the work that Andy's done. You guys just, you have to go get his books. You have to go online, listen to the stuff he does. My favorite show, one of my favorite shows on YouTube is The Pastor's Point of View that he does every Friday morning. I always love it. I don't know if you record it on Fridays. You probably record it a different day and you release it on Fridays, right? Is that what happens?
Yeah, we record on Thursday and then we drop it on Friday.
Yeah, it's a great show. I listen to a lot of those episodes. I think I've binged listened to many of them. They're just really valuable. What I really like about your show is that, yeah, you bring up all the current events. You're talking about all the things that are going on, but there's a lot of evergreen value to what you put because there's stuff that just, you get a really good, solid biblical education, and it's really, really good to kind of develop that understanding for a lot of people that don't really have it, right? Mm-hmm. It's useful. And then for those of us that are studying Bible prophecy, it's refreshing to take the dog for a walk or to go for a drive or whatever and listen to that. It's great. And I love your format. I love how Jim reads the articles, and then you spend a lot of time expounding upon it, and you guys go back and forth. It's actually really nice energy between you guys, and I have a lot of fun. I mean, it's just very valuable. So let's get right into this, bro. Let's talk about Babylon. First and foremost, what is Babylon? Because per Revelation, we've been talking about this. A lot of people, one of my favorite pet peeves is everybody says, what about Mystery Babylon? Mm-hmm. Why is that even a mistake?
Well, first of all, just real quick, your sermon today was awesome.
Praise God.
It's like, you connected chapter 18 with the whole book and explained that. You take Babylon for what it says, Babylon, and then you taught the whole chapter verse by verse. And
Yeah.
I think if folks would go and watch your sermon from this morning, particularly preachers, they would get a pretty good education on, how to teach, basically.
Yeah.
And that's basically what you did today.
It's an honor hearing that from you. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, it was great teaching. But, the reality of the situation, as you know, is Babylon, the word is used 300 times in the Bible. And every single time it's used, it means Babylon. I mean, It refers to the city between the Euphrates and the Tigris. The Hebrews called that area Shinar. The Greeks called it Mesopotamia, Meso, middle, Potamia, rivers is in Potomac, and it's modern-day Iraq. And it's basically where the Tower of Babel once stood. You'll see the reference to Shinar there in, I think, Genesis 11, around verses 1 and 2. And it's the same area where the children of Israel were taken into the 70-year captivity. You'll see a reference to that, Shinar. Daniel chapter 1, verse 2. And Bible prophecy, as you know very well, anticipates that city is going to rise to tremendous importance in the last days. And so when Revelation 17 and 18, and as you well know, it doesn't just start in Revelation 17 and 18. It starts actually in Revelation 14.
That's right.
I think it's about verse 8. That's the
Correct.
first time Babylon is mentioned. And then, as you explained this morning, you get to the seventh bowl judgment, and you have the greatest earthquake in human history, and Babylon the Great is destroyed. And then there's a non-chronological parenthetical insertion there explaining Babylon past, present, and future. And as you pointed out, it disrupts the flow of the book. I totally agree with what you said today. 5 non-chronological parenthetical insertions. This is the last one, before it picks up again chronologically in chapter 19, relative to the second advent. So that's what you have going on in Revelation 17 and 18. It's kind of an excursus. I call them lunch breaks. The way I explain it is you're hiking up a mountain, and then you pick a place to have lunch. And usually the place you pick to have lunch is scenic, so you can look backward to where you've been and forward to where you're going. And then when lunch is over, you get back on the hiking path and keep moving chronologically. That's what you have going on there in Revelation 17 and 18. It's just a pause to give the Holy Spirit giving to John, more information about Babylon. What exactly just happened in this seventh bowl judgment? And then I totally concur with what you said this morning, that it's the same city in both chapters. 17 is more focused on the religious side of the city.
Right.
18 is more focused on the commercial side of the city, but it's the exact same city. Chapter 17 gives you a little bit more information on exactly how Babylon is going to fall, where God is going to put into the heart of the beast the desire to destroy the city. And then chapter 18 just sort of picks up on that and gives you more commercial information about the city. And, there's no reason not to take Babylon at face value. Everybody says, well, we rail as dispensationalists against replacement theology.
Oh, yeah.
Where they say, the church is Israel. Well, what's happened is replacement theology mentality. Not that everybody does this as a replacement theologian, but they walk in there in chapter 17 and 18, and they just scratch out the word Babylon and write in Rome or the United States or something. And the truth of the matter is, the word Babylon is a technical word in the Bible. Every single time it's used, it refers to a literal city on the Euphrates that prophecy demands is restored one day and brought back to resurgence and becomes sort of the headquarters of the Antichrist, at least for a season. Now, the question you asked is mystery Babylon.
Yeah.
Well, you'll notice in the King James Version, mystery is capitalized.
That's right.
But you read it in the NASB, and mystery is not capitalized.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one other quick thing is if people would stop looking at just verse 5 and go to verse 7.
I know.
They'll see that the mystery is the woman, and the beast.
That's right.
That's the mystery.
Yep.
Mystery, of course, is a new truth, something hidden, now disclosed. And the mystery is exactly how Babylon is going to be destroyed. How do the beast and the city of Babylon interact? That's the mystery. Because when you go through the Old Testament, what you'll see is two strands of prophetic thought developing. We know there's going to be some kind of Eurocentric empire under the Antichrist.
100%.
The 10 horns.
Yep.
And all of that. And we also know, you mentioned the passages this morning, Jeremiah 50 and 51, Isaiah 13 and 14. I'll throw another one in, Zechariah 5, verses 5 through 11, that Babylon is going to be restored to life. And the mystery is, how do those two different strands of prophetic thought get reconciled? That's the mystery. And so you get an explanation of that in Revelation 17, where it's the woman, Babylon, riding the beast. The beast will not like that because he wants to be worshiped above all that is called God, 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 4. And so it will actually be God putting his purpose into the heart of the beast to destroy the harlot, which is the city named Babylon. That's the mystery, okay?
Yeah.
It's when people say her title is Mystery Babylon, they're not paying attention to this information. And as you pointed out today, the word Babylon the Great is used 5 times in the book of Revelation. Never once outside of Revelation 17 is she ever called Mystery Babylon.
That's right.
She's always called Babylon the Great.
That's right.
So her title is not Mystery Babylon. So the King James Version, sorry to offend the King James only people out there, I like the King James Version, but I don't think it's inspired, the way people.
Right. Yeah.
So the King James Version has it wrong. The mystery should not be part of her title.
That's
okay.
Right.
Her title is Babylon the Great. How she interacts with the beast, that's the mystery.
Yeah.
And how God is going to put his purpose into the heart of the beast to destroy the city, that's the mystery. And by the way, when you get to the end of the chapter 17, you were in chapter 18 this morning, but backing up a chapter 17, verse 18, it's very clear. It says the woman that you saw is a city.
Yep.
So she's not just some kind of mystical religious system. She's an actual tangible city on planet Earth. Now, she could be the headquarters of a religion. No problem there. But first and foremost, she's an actual city. And so chapter 17, the mystery is how she's going to be destroyed. And chapter 18 just picks up on it and says, let me tell you about the commercial side of the same city and give some more information about her destruction. So that's a very long answer to the question.
It's a really good answer, and it's funny you talk about the use of the term or the deployment of the term mystery. Actually, there's the presence of a definite article depending on what apparatus you're reading out of in the Greek language, and actually it should be worded a mystery, and then there's that pause, Babylon the Great. But what's even more unique is this term mystery is this all, in my opinion, it's a very inclusive term that if you really look at it closely for what it actually implies, right? Information that would not be known unless it was actually revealed, then you begin to realize that everything you read about in all of the things that relate to Babel, the Tower of Babel, Babylon, all of that is culminated in the account of Revelation 17 and Revelation 18. And the reason why I believe that is because you can see all of the contributory variables, right? That if you were sitting in the Genesis world and you had this information revealed to you that in Revelation, you would be able to spot all the things, all the characteristics that you read about, whether it be the commercial side, whether it be the religious side. Like all of those things are all you can duplicate those things. It's not like it's hard to see now that it's been revealed to us, right? And it's interesting because when you look at the modern day movements that people are buying into, whether it be intersectionality or whether it be a lot of this stuff that's going on with the Marxism and the stuff being funded by Soros and all that, that is all about the type of things that are going to contribute to building this city.
Yeah. You almost get the impression that there was a religious system already being built and in place.
100%.
The system is just looking for a place to be her headquarters.
Yeah.
And Bible prophecy indicates that the city of Babylon, just like the Tower of Babel, same location, which was the headquarters of what I think is called the mother-child cult.
Yeah.
Where, backing up just a little bit here, Nimrod was married to Semiramis, and the two of them had a child named Tammuz. This is kind of pieced together from Babylonian tradition, but the two of them had this child named Tammuz, and Tammuz was killed by a wild animal and brought back to life under satanic powers. And so when God confounded the language, everybody took a kind of a piece of that system into their own ethnicity and culture. That, by the way, is why God had to raise up the nation of Israel. That's what makes Israel different. She is the only nation started independently of the mother-child system because God had to take Abram and separate him. Remember, from the Ur of the Chaldeans, and tell him to walk by faith, and he would inherit a land and so forth. So the Tower of Babel was a city which was the headquarters of a system. That's exactly what's going to happen in the last days. It's just this time around, it's not going to be under the jurisdiction of Nimrod,
right?
Who's really a prefigurement of the Antichrist.
Yeah, 100%.
As you know, Nimrod's name in Hebrew means rebellion.
Yeah,
but it's going to be under an Antichrist, the Antichrist, and what Satan wanted in Genesis 11, which was disrupted by God through the confounding of the language, is brought back to life. And I think, as you pointed out today, that's after the restrainer, the handcuffs, on Satan right. are somewhat removed, and he can do what he wants. And he goes right back to building what he was trying to build in Genesis 11 before God, messed with his program.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things about this that's kind of scary. Like when I say scary, not to us, because we know what God is all about. We know what he's going to do for us and all that. But there's a scary parallel that exists here. And, when you start looking at the spirit of Antichrist and you start looking what that all entails, like you realize some parallels that are just unbelievable. Like things that when you stop to consider, you just think, wow, how in the world is it that this isn't just so obvious to so many people? Like you look at the Tower of Babel, and it's interesting. The one aspect that caused the Tower of Babel to become a serious problem, where the Lord looked at it and said, hey, this is going to be a problem for us. We need to get this fixed, was the fact that they had a common language. Mm-hmm. And in that common language, the Bible says it, there was nothing that could have stopped man in doing what they were seeking to do. And it's funny because we've left that world now of having confused languages. And for the first time in human history, in these last 5 years, because of AI, the whole world can speak to one another again.
Yeah. The project that was disrupted is coming back together.
Yeah.
Is essentially what's happening. And, there's so many clues in the text that demonstrate this. For example, this morning you were talking about the purple and gold.
Yep.
Which is in both chapters, by the way.
Yep.
It's in chapter 17 and chapter 18. And ever since coming of age as a Christian, I've sat under prophecy teachers. You probably sat under the same guys, who have told us, well, this is the Roman Catholic colors in their garments. But it's very simple. All you do is go back to Daniel 5. You mentioned the passage this morning when the Persians conquered the Babylonians in 539 BC in the handwriting on the wall chapter. What was the colors that Belshazzar put around Daniel in terms of a reward, in terms of a cloak? Well, it was made of purple and gold.
Yep.
Now, that was Neo-Babylonia that did that. So purple and gold really relates to Babylon, not the Roman Catholic garb. And I'm not at all advocating Roman Catholic theology. I'm just saying that, we can say Roman Catholicism is bad without turning her into the whore of Babylon.
Yeah. It's totally true. Yeah. But what they do with that is Revelation chapter 17, and it talks about these 7 mountains or 7 hills. Yes. And then oftentimes people say, well, that's right there. That's Rome. That's Roman Catholicism. I actually probably got myself in trouble when I taught through Revelation 17 last week, because I actually said that it's probably more likely the 7 domains and dominionist theology than it is
Yeah.
the seven mountains of Rome, for a lot of reasons. I mean, look, it's like you said, we're talking about a city here. And
yeah. Well, real quick on those seven hills of Rome. I mean, just a couple of things that hardly anybody points out, but as you read it, they'll become obvious to people. It doesn't say seven mountains.
That's right.
Or excuse me, it doesn't say seven hills. It says seven mountains. And the Greek there is oros. And then beyond that, when you look at it very carefully, you'll see that those seven mountains are not even connected to the woman riding the beast.
Yep.
Named Babylon. They're connected to the beast. Okay, that's number two. Number three is all you do is we take the Bible literally, except when the Bible doesn't want to be understood literally. And when it doesn't want to be understood literally, it will tell you, I don't want to be understood literally here. And it tells you right there as you move from verse 9 to verse 10 of chapter 17 that the seven mountains are seven kings. And remember, in this type of literature, king and kingdom are kind of synonyms. You'll see that in Daniel 2, verses 37 and 38, where Daniel says of Nebuchadnezzar, you are the head of gold. You are the king, O king, the head of gold. Then immediately he starts talking about the kingdom. So I think these seven mountains are basically seven anti-Semitic kingdoms that have exerted sort of a universal hatred for Israel. Egypt, Assyria, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and then there's going to be sort of a revived Rome, of the last days. And so, and remember what Daniel 7 verse 12 says. It says these beasts, when they're conquered, continue to live. So it's kind of like Rome conquered Greece politically, but Greece conquered Rome culturally.
Yeah.
In other words, they just took the Romans just took the Grecian gods and gave them new names. So apparently these beasts, their culture continued to live as we move from one empire to the next, and the amalgamation of all of them is going to be the Antichrist system. So that is the meaning of these seven mountains. It has nothing to do with the topography of Rome, whatsoever.
Yeah, it's interesting, and there's so much to actually be said about that. Okay, so let me back up to the subject of Babylon. Today, in your opinion, knowing what we know about Babylon and seeing what we're seeing happening around us from many of the news stories that we're seeing, all of the current events, all the things that are happening, what are some things we should be looking out for? Like what as students of the Bible, studying Bible prophecy, learning the things that we're learning, what should we be looking out for? What are some things we should be seeing here?
Well, Babylon will become the center of worldwide attention at some point. Now, people say, well, that's ridiculous. There's nothing over there but a bunch of desert. Well, you know what, James? Pre-1948, they used to mock people that said Israel has to be reborn.
100%.
Well, they're not mocking anymore because look at Israel today. The same type of thing is about to happen with Babylon. Babylon is going to be restored to worldwide significance, and part of it is a three-letter word, oil.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It just look at where most of the world's oil supply is, particularly now with our current administration, cutting back on our energy independence. We can't drill, baby, drill anymore.
Right.
So we're all dependent on the Middle East. And so all the Antichrist really has to do is set up shop in Iraq, annex a few surrounding territories, and just like that, he controls 60% of the world's oil supply.
Yeah, I would totally agree. We could spend hours and hours and hours and hours talking about the geopolitical implications as it relates just to the effects of OPEC, OPEC plus, even BRICS, and how it all relates to the subject of oil and how the commoditization of oil in that region is very different than what we see in Europe, even what we see in Israel, especially because of the pipelines that exist, the ones that don't exist anymore, and a lot of the allowances that are made for the transmission of oil versus not. And Iraq is, in my opinion, of all of the nations in that region, the one that's probably primed the best for something like that, especially after Desert Storm. When Desert Storm happened under Bush Sr., They learned a lot of lessons in Iraq about how they manage their oil wells and what happens there. And things changed substantially, not to mention the fact that the permanent guardians of some of those wells are lots of members of the international community, whether it be from, the UN Security Council has some, for lack of a better term, some guardianship over some of those wells. And there's other organizations that have other guardianship. Some of it's been given to Saudi Arabia, some of it to Kuwait, some of it, under different agreements. So I think it's very primed for an international community to kind of sit down and take control of that, especially for the nations in the Persian Gulf, especially.
And one of my favorite commentators is the late Dr. Henry Morris. And most people don't know this. They just know him as a creation guy. But he was a prophecy guy too. He wrote the Genesis record, and he also wrote the Revelation record. And he says, look at his treatment of Revelation 18. He says there's no more ideal a place on planet Earth for a world capital than in Babylon, because it connects those three continents together. And then you toss in the world's oil supply, and it's just like an ideal place for the Antichrist to set up shop and, usher in world dominion. And, what's interesting is when John was taken in that non-chronological parenthetical insertion and showed that information about Babylon, ultimately by the Holy Spirit, it says he was taken into the wilderness. Guess what, James? There's no wilderness in Rome.
Yeah.
Or there's no desert area in Rome. But the desert area, wilderness desert area, fits perfectly with a description of modern day Babylon.
100%. Yeah, I would agree with you. And it's interesting too, because you look at all of the things that relate to the shipping industry. Mm-hmm. You look at all of the things related to that kind of thing. And Babylon is also a great fit for that. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this in service this morning, but we talked about just the possibility of just simply trenching out a little pathway area from the Euphrates into where the Persian Gulf is. I don't think that's a hard picture to draw.
Well, not at all. In fact, the plans are already laid for kind of a canal type thing, to go through that area and to convert that area one day to kind of a maritime city. But even if that didn't happen, and I think it will happen, it talks about the merchants of the sea standing afar off. Okay. I remember seeing pictures of Air Force One and our former president, George W. Bush. He had a screen, and he was monitoring from afar off the burning of the 10 Twin Towers on 9/11. So given our technology, it's not hard for me to imagine merchants afar off, probably in the Persian Gulf area, monitoring what has happened to their great city, Babylon, with the seventh bowl judgment.
Yeah. Whew. Dude, that's an earful. There's a lot. So tell us a little bit about what people can do if they want to learn more about this and study up and kind of gain a little bit more. I know that you've done some work on this, actually a lot of work on this. Maybe you can let people know about that. Let them know about your YouTube page, some of the other things that you have going on. I think it'd be really great.
Yeah, I have a study on our website, Sugarland Bible Church website, also on YouTube, my personal YouTube page, andywoodsministries.org, or Andy Woods Ministries, I guess, just with the YouTube search engine. But it's about a 75-part sermon series on the book of Revelation. And look at what I've done there in Revelation 17 and 18. And actually moves beyond that into chapter 19, verses 1 through 6, because you've got those heavenly hallelujahs, after Babylon falls. But I really go into a lot of depth explaining it, much like you did this morning. I have a little book out entitled Babylon, The Bookends of Prophetic History, where I try to lay out the case for a literal Babylon understanding. And I try to be very fair with the other views that are less literal and more allegorical, and explain why they're kind of, they fall short of the biblical explanation. And then from there, the book moves into current events, the kinds of things we're talking about here. and shows why this literal Babylon view actually makes complete sense, when you look at the trajectory that our world is moving into. So slbc.org is where you can find that sermon series. I have a website, andywoodsministries.org, a YouTube channel, Andy Woods Ministries, same title. You can put it into Rumble and find my stuff there. I have an app. Just go to the App Store and type in Andy Woods Ministries and download our free app with all of our recent content. And my goodness, what else? I know there's something I'm leaving out. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, andywoodsministries.org. There's a conspicuous way there to sign up for our newsletter. So every time we do one of our pastor's point of view shows, the notes that we read from, will show up right there in your inbox. And so, my stuff is out there. If people want to find it, it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah. I've done many shows based on some of the things I've heard on your pastor's point of view, because there are some stories that I just didn't hear. Mm-hmm. And so like if it to me, it's like a great catch-all, because I'll listen to it, and many of the stories that you talk about are stories that I have heard, but many of them are not. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, very valuable. It's a great tool. Guys, if you can do me this favor, subscribe to Andy's YouTube channel. It's really important. There's a lot of great work that's on there. And bro, thank you. This has been great.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, number one. And number two, the great sermon, this morning that I hope people will go to your church's website and listen to. And thanks for standing on the literal authority of God's word, in these last days. Not a lot of pastors that I know of, Southern California, let alone the whole United States, would stand up on a Sunday morning for over an hour. You preached over an hour.
It was a long time. Yeah, I know.
Verse by verse, standing on a literal interpretation of Revelation 18. So I want to thank you for what you're doing.
Well, praise the Lord, bro. I love it. It's a joy, and the people in the church, man, they love it. I mean, they've been blessed. And that, by the way, is on the different YouTube page. Well, if you go to jameskaddis.com or you go to calvarychapelsignal.com, you'll find those sermons. They're right there.
And one other quick thing, we're also in podcast format.
Oh,
so just type in Andy Woods Ministries into wherever you get your podcasts, and you can take our pastor's point of view show that he's been speaking of and have it in podcast format.
Yeah, I've spent many times listening to it in that format while walking the dog, or just decompressing and just taking stuff in. I sometimes I'll wait. I won't listen to it on Friday, and I'll wait to listen to it before my live show on Tuesday early in the morning. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a get ready for game day type thing, because it's good to know that stuff. And then, when I broadcast, I'm always talking about current events as well, but there's a lot that I just take in with me when I go to the table, and it's just really good stuff. So you guys will be blessed. And I, for one, it's interesting. I don't listen to anything in regular speed. I listen to everything in double speed typically. And the reason why I do it, it's like a brain discipline thing for me. I have to listen to it in double speed, because if it's in double speed, it forces me to concentrate. So like what'll happen with me is if I listen like in regular speed, then my mind will wander, and I'll just kind of like, I'll be thinking, but if it's in double, then it forces me, like I have to concentrate. And man, there are some subtle things that come up in that show that's like really interesting. Like where the nuggets come up isn't necessarily even in the discussion of the main story, but it's like a comment that'll just like come out of the, like a little side comment. Like you'll say something to the effect of, and this just happened over here. Wait, what? What did he just say? Talk about that a little bit more. What happened? And then I'll go chase that rabbit trail. Oh, wow, trip out. Yeah, that happened. That's wild. So there's a lot of those things that are that's interesting. He kind of reminds me a lot of Bloomberg TV. Like earlier on when I started listening to Bloomberg, someone told me, you only listen to it when the nuggets that come out, that's where it's going to end up being valuable, right? And so I listen to Andy, and Andy, everything he says is valuable, unlike Bloomberg, right? But then there's little nuggets there that it's like worth the price of admission, because it's like a side note. Like you're saying, it's something maybe you've been thinking about or working on or something, and it comes out, and then Jim will go, and it was because of that. And okay, stop, wait. Rewind that for a second. Like, I bet you anything, if we looked at the analytics on your videos, I bet you there are places I could identify on those videos where people rewound it again and again and again and again. I could find it. So it's a good resource. Nonetheless, it's good, and it will encourage you guys to grow in your walk with the Lord. You release it early, Pacific Standard Time. What time Pacific Standard? I think it's 9
a.m.
Yeah, 9 a.m. Texas time.
9 a.m. Central.
Yeah, because I know, because I have heard it as early as 7 in the morning. So I know, it has to be like 9 a.m. It's good. It's good to listen to. So, all right, you guys. Well, God bless you. Appreciate the fact that you guys are here and listening to all of this. We got lots of great stuff coming up, by the way. I can tell you this right now. The Lord, I'm telling you, we are running out of time. We are in these days. I've never seen days like the days we're in right now. I've never seen it come together so fast. We're definitely in the last days. So keep your head up, you guys, okay? Love you. God bless you guys.